Let me tell you something. If you want to change your life, if you want to rise above your circumstances, outgrow your environment, and become everything you were born to be, you are going to have to start here first. With your mind, the most dangerous battlefield you'll ever step onto is not in the streets. It's not in business meetings or behind closed doors. It's the battlefield of the mind. That's where the real war is. That's where the enemy fights you. That's where fear creeps in, where doubt sets up camp, where your past comes back knocking, trying to convince you that you ain't worth more than the pain you've been through. But let me tell you something loud and clear. You don't win the battle by being passive. You don't win by sitting back, scrolling your way through distractions, numbing your thoughts with noise, or letting the opinions of broken people shape your identity. You win by guarding your mind. See, your mind is the gate to your life. What you feed it, you fuel. If you feed it trash, don't expect treasure to come out your mouth. If you flood it with fear, anxiety, and scarcity, that's what will pour out when life squeezes you. You got to filter your thoughts like your life depends on it, because it does. You don't let just anybody walk up in your house and start rearranging your furniture, right? Then why are you letting every random thought walk up in your mind and sit on the couch of your peace? You got to say, not today, anxiety, not today, insecurity, not today, lies from the past, not today, fear of the future. You got to treat your mind like royalty lives there, because it does. And you better believe the quality of your thinking determines the direction of your living. You want to know why some people stay stuck? It's not because they don't have talent. It's because they keep feeding their mind poison and expecting purpose to bloom out of it. And once your mind is strong, once it's locked in, focused, full of truth, you gotta check your mouth next. Yeah, I said it. That tongue of yours, that little thing sitting in your mouth can build a destiny or burn down a future. It can inspire someone to rise, or it can tear them apart from the inside. And some folks out here losing blessings, not because they lack the ability, but because they never learned how to tame their tongue. You ever see somebody who talks so reckless, so negative, so disrespectful? It's like they don't even know the power they carry. Words are seeds. You plant them, and one way or another, they grow. You keep speaking defeat. Don't act surprised when defeat shows up. You keep talking down on yourself, calling yourself dumb, unworthy, not good enough. Don't get confused when you can't see your worth. Your words are shaping your reality, whether you like it or not. You got to get serious about what comes out of your mouth. Because whatever you release, whether it's life or death, it's coming back to you. You ever heard the phrase, speak what you seek until you see what you said? That's not just a feel, good quote. That's a spiritual principle. That's truth. You want peace. Speak peace. You want healing. Speak healing. You want growth, favor, abundance. Then stop cursing your own life with your own lips. Stop killing relationships with sarcasm and bitterness. Stop gossiping, complaining, cussing out the future before it even gets here. And let me say this, you gotta learn to be silent sometimes. There is strength in silence. Some battles are won by shutting your mouth and moving in silence. Some victories are reserved for those who don't broadcast their every move. Don't clap back every time someone disrespects them. You don't always have to speak on it. You don't have to prove yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Be wise, be still, let your fruit speak, let your growth speak, let your progress make the noise. But while you're guarding your mind and taming your tongue, don't you dare forget to manage your money. See, a lot of people praying for a breakthrough, asking for increase, begging for blessings, but they don't even know what to do with what they already have. Let me tell you something real. God doesn't bless chaos. He blesses order. He blesses stewardship. And if you can't manage a little, you won't be trusted with more. That's not a punishment. That's a principle. Money is a tool, not a god. It's supposed to work for you. You ain't supposed to be enslaved to it. But too many of us are working jobs we hate to buy things we don't need, to impress people we don't even like, running on that hamster wheel, chasing a lifestyle that doesn't even match our assignment. And for what? For applause, for validation, for a picture on the gram. Let me tell you something, wealth is quiet, broke is loud, broke brags, broke flexes, broke buys what looks rich instead of investing in what builds real wealth. But when you manage your money with wisdom, when you budget, when you invest, when you save, when you give, money becomes your servant, not your master. And this isn't just about stacking dollars. This is about legacy. This is about leaving something behind for your children and their children. This is about being the first in your family to break cycles, the first to own instead of rent, the first to teach financial literacy instead of debt mentality, the first to say, no, we don't do payday loans and quick cash scams around here. We build, we save, we plan, we think long term. Money can be a blessing or a burden depending on who holds it. That's why you gotta get your mind right before you chase the bag. Because a poor mindset with a rich bank account is still broke, and some of y'all praying for 6 figures with $5 discipline, it don't work like that. You gotta upgrade your thinking, your habits, your circle, before you upgrade your income. And let me be clear, managing your money doesn't mean being stingy. It means being strategic. It means understanding timing, knowing when to sow, knowing when to say no. It means honoring your future more than your feelings, because your feelings will have you buying things that impress today but rob your tomorrow. So, guard your mind, tame your tongue, manage your money. This is how you move different. This is how you elevate. This is how you stop surviving and start thriving. You weren't born just to pay bills and die. You were born to live with purpose, to move with power, to speak with authority, to be wise with your resources, to break generational curses and build generational blessings. But that won't happen by accident. You gotta be intentional, every day, in your thoughts, in your speech, in your spending. You can't live carelessly and expect greatness to show up. Nah, greatness demands discipline. It demands self-control. It demands maturity. And listen, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all together. But you do have to take responsibility. You have to look in the mirror and decide, I'm not going to let the way I was raised define how I think. I'm not going to let pain dictate what I say. I'm not going to let culture tell me how to spend. I'm going to rise above. I'm going to grow up. I'm going to be the one who changes everything. That's the standard. That's the calling. That's the challenge. And yes, it will be hard. Yes, it will stretch you. Yes, it will require sacrifice. But let me promise you this, the version of you on the other side of that discipline, the version who has peace of mind, who speaks life, who builds wealth with purpose, that version is worth it all. You've got something powerful inside of you. Don't waste it. Don't bury it under chaos and confusion. Protect your mind. Guard it like your life depends on it, because it does. Control your mouth. Speak with wisdom, grace, and truth, and manage your money with vision. Don't just survive, build, because this life you're living, it's not just for you. Somebody's watching, somebody's learning, somebody's waiting to see if you'll rise, so they can believe they can too. You've been called. You've been chosen. Now it's time to move like it. And if you really want to build a life of substance, if you truly desire more than just temporary highs and momentary success, you've got to go deeper. This journey of guarding your mind, taming your tongue, and managing your money, it ain't a phase, it's a lifestyle, it's a mindset shift, it's a daily decision to show up different, walk different, and think different. Because let's be real, the world's loud right now. Everybody's got an opinion, everybody's shouting, everybody's performing. And if you're not careful, you'll drown in that noise. You'll lose your sense of identity trying to keep up with everybody else's highlight reel. You'll start comparing your real life to somebody else's filtered version of success. And before you know it, your peace is gone, your focus is scattered, and you're chasing a version of life that was never meant for you in the first place. That's why you gotta shut it all down sometimes, turn off the noise, pull back, get quiet, because in the silence, that's where you hear truth, that's where you remember who you are, that's where you gain clarity. That's where you recharge your mind and protect your energy. You can't think clearly when your mind is cluttered. You can't create when your soul is in chaos. Peace is the breeding ground of purpose. And if you don't protect your peace, life will keep stealing it with distractions and drama. You've got to learn how to master your environment. That means you don't go where your peace gets disrupted. That means you don't entertain every conversation, you don't chase every conflict, you don't respond to every critic. Everything doesn't deserve your attention. Everything doesn't require your reaction. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay silent and focused while the world expects you to break down, because they'll test you. Oh yeah, they'll test you. Life will put pressure on you. People will poke at your triggers. Circumstances will try to pull the worst out of you. But if your mind is guarded and your tongue is trained, you won't fall for it. You won't let temporary emotions cause permanent damage. You won't let anger make decisions that only wisdom should handle. You won't speak out of impulse and destroy something it took years to build. You see, growth isn't loud. Real maturity, real elevation. It happens in quiet spaces. It happens when you walk away from the argument instead of proving your point. When you bless people who betrayed you, when you keep building even though nobody's clapping, that's growth, that's power, that's next level living. And when you live like that guarded mind, disciplined tongue, wise financial stewardship, you start to notice something. Doors open different, people respect you differently. Opportunities come not because you begged for them, but because you're ready for them. You've built the character to carry the calling. You've created the structure to sustain the success. That's what real power looks like. Let me tell you something else about this journey. You're going to outgrow some people, and that's okay. Everybody can't come with you. Not everyone is meant to sit at your next table. Some folks are attached to the version of you that didn't guard your mind, that didn't think deeply, that ran your mouth recklessly and blew money like it grew on trees. That version may have been fun to them. Comfortable, predictable, but you're evolving now. You're elevating, and elevation requires separation. So don't apologize for leveling up. Don't shrink to make people comfortable. Don't downplay your discipline because someone else is stuck in distraction. You're not better than anybody, but you are becoming better than who you used to be, and that's worth celebrating, that's worth protecting, that's worth fighting for. Because, listen, temptation doesn't stop just because you're on the right path. In fact, sometimes it gets louder, it gets sneakier, it comes dressed in opportunity, but costs you your integrity. It shows up like quick money, easy success, fast love. But behind the mask, it's the same old trap. That's why discernment matters. That's why you can't be desperate. Desperation makes you settle. It makes you say yes to things you should have walked away from. But when your mind is sound, your spirit is calm, and your priorities are straight, you don't fall for just anything. You see through the fluff. You wait for what aligns with your purpose. This world will try to sell you a shortcut, but purpose doesn't live in shortcuts. Purpose lives in the slow build, in the discipline nobody claps for, in the sacrifices made in private, in the nights you chose to save instead of spend, in the days you kept your mouth shut when you had every reason to speak recklessly. That's where greatness is formed, in the choices nobody sees. You've got to understand that self-control is a superpower. In a world where people are quick to speak, quick to spend, quick to quit self, control separates the average from the exceptional. The person who can master their impulses is the person who can master their future. So train yourself, not just emotionally, but mentally, financially, spiritually. Every time you choose patience over panic, wisdom over ego, growth over comfort, you're building something real, something lasting, something nobody can take from you. And let's talk about legacy, because that's what this is really about. It's not just about feeling good today. It's about who you're becoming. It's about what you're building for the next generation. See, we don't just inherit trauma. We inherit habits. We inherit mindsets. We inherit financial patterns. And someone has to be bold enough to say, it stops with me. You have to be that someone. You have to be the one who teaches your children how to think critically, how to speak life, how to manage their money with wisdom, not because you read it in a book, but because they saw you live it. They watched you turn down short-term pleasure for long-term vision. They watched you guard your peace even when life tried to shake you. They saw you walk away from drama and walk toward purpose, because at the end of the day, this isn't just about success. This is about alignment, about living in such a way that your words, your thoughts, and your actions all agree, that your life is not a performance, it's a testimony, that the things you say you believe are backed up by the way you live. People are watching, even when you think they're not. Your discipline is inspiring somebody else's breakthrough. Your restraint is giving someone else hope. Your commitment to growth is lighting a path for someone who thought it couldn't be done. So don't you dare give up. Don't you dare think it's too late. Don't you dare believe the lie that says your mistakes disqualify you, because grace is real, growth is possible, and your future is still unfolding. But it won't unfold by accident. You've got to be intentional. You've got to be willing to check yourself, correct yourself, and keep moving forward. You've got to be willing to unlearn some things, relearn some things, and upgrade the way you think, speak, and handle your business. This is your time, your season, your wake-up call, and yeah, it might feel uncomfortable. Growth usually does, but that discomfort, that stretching, that pressure, it's shaping you, it's preparing you. It's making room for the person you were always meant to become. So today, right now, make the decision to be the one who thinks higher, speaks wiser, builds smarter, lives better, not for applause, not for validation, but because you know deep down that you were made for more. You were made to rise. You were made to lead. You were made to live a life that reflects purpose, power, and principle. Guard your mind. Tame your tongue. Manage your money and let your life speak so loudly you never have to raise your voice. Every step you take in discipline creates a ripple in your life, a shift in your spirit, a change in the atmosphere around you. People don't always notice at first. They might laugh, question you, even criticize you. They'll say you're doing too much, acting different, thinking too deep. But what they don't realize is you're not trying to impress, you're trying to transform. You're not chasing trends, you're chasing truth. And truth doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it just moves quietly, consistently, powerfully. And I want you to understand something important. You weren't born to live on autopilot. You weren't created to just go with the flow, follow the crowd, do what everyone else is doing. You were created to choose, and that means choosing to protect your thoughts, choosing to pause before you speak, choosing to think before you spend. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's not restriction, it's freedom, because the real freedom, it doesn't come from doing whatever you feel. It comes from doing what's right, even when you don't feel like it. This is where the foundation gets laid, not in the loud moments, not in the spotlight, not in the hype, but in the small, everyday decisions, the thoughts you allow to linger, the words you decide to speak or hold back, the way you handle what's in your hands. These are the things shaping your future. These are the things building your character. These are the things defining the direction of your life. And let's be clear, it's not just about success on the outside. It's about peace on the inside, because I've seen people with money in the bank, cars in the driveway, followers online, and chaos in their soul. I've seen people who know how to talk the talk, but don't know how to live with integrity. I've seen people who look like they've got it all, but they're drowning behind closed doors because they never learned how to master the inner world. And that's why guarding your mind is the first battle. If you lose there, you'll lose everywhere else. Your thoughts determine your feelings. Your feelings influence your choices. Your choices create your habits, and your habits build your life. So don't ignore the mental clutter. Don't pretend like your thoughts don't matter. They do. You need to declutter, detox, unplug. Stop feeding your mind junk and expecting it to produce joy. You've got to feed your mind like a garden. Water it with truth. Pull the weeds of doubt, plant seeds of purpose, expose it to light, light from scripture, light from wisdom, light from mentors who challenge you to grow. And yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes effort. But the fruit it produces, worth every moment. Now, when it comes to your words, don't underestimate the weight they carry. You might forget what you said in passing, but someone else might carry that word for years. You might think a joke is harmless, but it could be planting insecurity in someone who's already fighting battles you can't see. You never know what someone's going through. You never know what your words are building or breaking. And I get it, it's easy to react. It's easy to clap back, to speak from emotion, to try and defend yourself when people come for you. But you've got to rise above that. You've got to become so grounded, so rooted in who you are, that you don't flinch when you're tested. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every insult deserves a response. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes silence is strategy. Sometimes silence is strength. And when you do speak, speak with purpose, speak with love, speak with vision, speak with direction. Use your words to heal, not harm. Use them to build, not break. Use them to declare your future, not describe your fears. Because your mouth is a steering wheel that's guiding your life. Don't let it take you somewhere your character can't sustain. And when it comes to your money, listen, this part right here has taken out too many gifted people. Not because they didn't have the potential, not because they weren't anointed, but because they lacked order, they lacked stewardship. They didn't respect the assignment enough to create structure, and structure matters. Money is not just paper. It's energy, it's opportunity, it's potential, and how you handle it says more about you than you think. You want more. Show you can manage what you already have. Show that you don't need validation in your purchases. Show that your worth isn't tied to designer labels or high-end distractions. Show that you can invest in things that multiply, not just things that impress. Too many people are living in cycles because they keep making emotional financial decisions. Buying out of boredom, spending out of insecurity, giving to people who never give back, and then wondering why their pockets are empty and their purpose feels out of reach. That's not God's design. That's not wisdom. That's misalignment, and if you want to get free, you've got to get clear. Clear about your goals, clear about your needs, clear about your priorities. Not everyone needs access to your resources. Not every request requires a yes. You are not a bank. You are not a rescue mission. You are a steward, and stewards don't operate in guilt. They operate in grace and discipline. And while we're at it, don't forget to give. Yeah, I said it, give. Generosity isn't about losing. It's about planting. But plant with wisdom. Give where it grows. Give where there's vision. Give because your heart is open, not because your boundaries are broken. Because generosity without wisdom becomes dysfunction. You were made for more than surviving. You were made to lead, and leadership doesn't begin when people start following you. Leadership begins when you start leading yourself, leading your thoughts, leading your speech, leading your spending. That's where the foundation gets laid. That's where strength is built.
So don't just wish for better, work for it. Don't just pray for peace, protect it. Don't just hope for wealth, build it. That's how you shift your life.
That's how you break patterns. That's how you step into purpose. Every moment you stay disciplined, you're training your future self to win. Every time you say no to what's comfortable, you're saying yes to what's possible. Every time you choose growth over gratification, you're setting yourself up for the kind of success that doesn't fade when the spotlight turns off. This life you've been given. It's sacred. It's a gift. And it's time to start treating it like it. Stop playing small. Stop settling for just enough. Stop letting fear speak louder than your faith. You've got everything you need inside of you to rise, but you've got to protect your inputs. Guard what enters your mind. Filter what flows from your mouth. Control what leaves your hands, because at the end of the day, it's not just about what you do. It's about who you're becoming while you do it. Are you becoming more aware, more thoughtful, more mature, more wise, or are you staying in cycles of reaction and regret? You get to choose. Every single day, you get to choose who you're becoming. You get to decide whether you'll be driven by purpose or pressure, whether you'll build your future or borrow somebody else's, whether you'll walk in wisdom or wander in distraction. It's your time now. No more excuses, no more delays, no more waiting for the right moment. The right moment is when you decide to make a change. The right time is when you wake up and say, I'm done living on autopilot. I'm done chasing empty things. I'm done letting my emotions run my life. This is where the change begins, with one decision. One habit, one boundary, one prayer, one vision, one declaration. I'm going to live like I was born on purpose for a purpose. I'm going to think higher, speak wiser, and move with discipline. You don't need more time. You need more intention. You don't need to be more impressive. You need to be more intentional. Guard what matters. Speak what's true. Handle what's in your hands like your future depends on it, because it does. And when it gets hard, and it will get hard, remember this, you weren't built to break. You weren't called to blend in. You weren't designed to live in fear. You were chosen, appointed, equipped, and everything you need to become who you were born to be is already inside of you. But it's your job to activate it, to cultivate it, to protect it, to grow it. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's coming to save you. This is your race to run, your story to write, your life to live with boldness, wisdom, and discipline. So keep going, keep building, keep becoming the version of you that you dream about. They're not as far as you think. They're just on the other side of consistency, focus, and faith. And as you continue walking this road, this intentional road of self-mastery and purpose, understand that consistency is what separates those who talk from those who transform. Everybody wants elevation, but few want the discipline it requires. Most folks want the rewards, but they don't want the routine. They want the blessing without the burden, the platform without the preparation, the influence without the integrity. But life doesn't work like that. Purpose doesn't flow where there's no order. Elevation doesn't come to chaos. That's why you have to create a standard in your life, a personal code that you live by, even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching, because that's when true character is revealed, not when the crowd is clapping, but when you're alone with your thoughts, with your choices, with your habits. That's where destiny is shaped, and it starts with that mind. That sacred, powerful, yet vulnerable battlefield, you gotta build a fence around it, not because you're afraid, but because you're aware. Aware of how quickly negative thoughts can grow roots, how fast comparison can kill confidence, how easy it is to allow doubt to dress itself up like wisdom and talk you out of your calling. So you must be vigilant. You must be selective. You must be intentional with your inputs. Because what you put in, what you watch, what you read, what you listen to, Those things don't just pass through your mind, they plant themselves, they grow, they shape perspective, they impact how you see yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you carry yourself. And the world will mirror back to you the version of you that you believe in your mind. So what are you believing? Are you feeding faith or feeding fear? Are you affirming your power or rehearsing your pain? Are you envisioning progress or expecting failure? Because thoughts are seeds and the mind is fertile soil. Whether you plant purpose or poison, something's gonna grow. Choose wisely. And when those thoughts become words, when they take shape through your mouth, they carry even more power. Life and death, they say, are in the tongue. And most people don't even realize they've been cursing their own future just by how they speak. Talking down on their dreams, minimizing their worth, speaking scarcity instead of abundance, complaining instead of creating. That mouth, oh, it can build kingdoms or burn bridges. It can prophecy break through or perpetuate bondage. You have to learn how to discipline your speech, not just around others, but when you're talking to yourself. Because your self-talk, that's the soundtrack to your life. That's the internal dialogue playing on loop. And if that dialogue is toxic, insecure, fearful, you'll start living down to it. You'll play small, settle quick, back down fast. You'll sabotage opportunities because you already convinced yourself you didn't deserve them. But when you start speaking life, when you start declaring truth, affirming your worth, aligning your words with your vision, you shift everything. You begin to walk different, stand different, move with a quiet confidence that can't be shaken by temporary circumstances, and don't let the enemy trick you into thinking silence is weakness. Silence, when chosen in wisdom, is a powerful response. You don't always have to defend yourself. You don't always have to clap back. Let people misunderstand you. Let them talk. You're not living for their validation. You're living for alignment, for peace, for purpose. And when your spirit is aligned, you won't waste breath proving what your fruit will reveal in time. Now let's touch that money again, because that's where so many people are bleeding silently, smiling in public, but drowning in private because their finances are out of control. Not because they don't make enough, but because they don't manage what they have, because they're emotionally spending, because they're trying to impress people who wouldn't show up for them in a storm, because they think abundance looks like consumption instead of stewardship. But abundance isn't about excess. It's about alignment. It's about making every dollar serve your vision. It's about saying no to the immediate so you can say yes to the important. It's about having the wisdom to build before you broadcast, to save before you stunt, to invest before you indulge. You don't need to look rich. You need to be secure. You need to have financial margin, emergency funds, investments, assets that grow while you sleep, generational wealth that doesn't just stop with you, but sets the next line up to win. That's power, that's legacy, that's maturity, and it takes time, it takes sacrifice. You might not take every trip this year. You might not upgrade the car right now. You might not buy every new gadget that drops. And that's okay, because your eyes are on something bigger. You're not living for applause. You're living for peace. You're not chasing hype. You're building habits. And when you start moving like that, people will notice. They might not understand it. They might even mock it. But deep down, they'll respect it. Because consistency, discipline, and vision are rare. And rare things stand out. Rare things attract. Rare things rise. Now, don't think this journey is all about restriction. No, it's about liberation. Real freedom isn't doing whatever you feel. Real freedom is having the power to choose what's best, even when it's hard. Real freedom is knowing you're not at the mercy of impulse, that you can be trusted with power, with influence, with increase, because you've developed the character to sustain it. Anybody can win a moment. But can you win a season? Can you stay faithful when no one's cheering? Can you stay focused when no one's watching? Can you stay generous when nobody's clapping? That's the test. That's the call. And you don't pass it with emotion. You pass it with endurance. You don't pass it by trying to look good. You pass it by doing the work when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's thankless. You pass it by showing up with excellence even when it feels unnoticed. Because the truth is, you notice. You know when you're aligned. You know when you're walking in integrity. You know when you're honoring your assignment. And that quiet confidence, that internal peace, that's worth more than any praise, any possession, any platform. So keep building, keep pruning, keep refining. Every sacrifice you make today is a seed for tomorrow. Every time you say no to what's easy, you say yes to what's essential. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you're becoming the person your future needs. And when you slip, because you will, you don't shame yourself, you don't spiral, you reset, you remember who you are, you remember what you're building, you realign and you keep moving. Because grace is not an excuse to stay stuck. It's the fuel to rise again. Stronger, wiser, sharper, this life. It's a journey, a sacred, beautiful, sometimes brutal journey. And the ones who thrive, they're not the loudest, not the flashiest, not the most followed. They're the ones who guard what matters, who filter their thoughts, manage their speech, handle their resources with wisdom. They're the ones who show up for themselves, even when it's not easy, even when it's not popular, even when it's not praised. They build in private so they can stand in public. They heal in silence so they can love in strength. They discipline their mind, tame their tongue, and manage their money not because someone's watching, but because they've chosen to honor the gift of their life. They've chosen to live with intention, with vision, with purpose. And that choice, that decision, that's where transformation begins. Every step you take in that direction, every small decision that nobody claps for, is still stacking up into something monumental. Don't underestimate the power of being consistent when no one is cheering, because it's in those quiet, uncelebrated moments that the foundation is fortified. You might not see the result yet, but you're building stamina. You're building depth. You're developing the kind of integrity that doesn't crack under pressure, that doesn't bend when things get heavy. The world is full of flashes. Quick rises, overnight fame, easy money, surface-level connections. But flashes fade. They burn bright for a moment and then vanish. You weren't built to be a flash. You were built to endure. You were built to have roots so deep that no storm can uproot you. And that kind of rootedness only comes through discipline. That kind of power only comes when you learn to say no to things that feel good temporarily, so you can say yes to the things that will bless you permanently. You gotta train your mind like a soldier trains for war, alert, disciplined, strategic. Because every day is a battlefield for your thoughts. If you don't direct them, they'll drift. If you don't focus them, they'll scatter. If you don't guard them, they'll get hijacked by every fear, insecurity, lie, and distraction that comes your way. That's why renewing your mind is a daily discipline, not weekly, not when it's convenient. Every single day you wake up, you're deciding what kind of mental environment you're going to live in. And if your mind isn't a place of peace, of purpose, of clarity, then it's time to do some cleanup. That means shutting down the negativity before it takes root. That means not giving space to every thought just because it shows up. You have the authority to reject what doesn't serve you. You have the power to speak over your own mind and say, no, we're not entertaining fear today. We're not dwelling on the past. We're not giving energy to what they said or what didn't happen. We're focusing on what's next, on what's true, on what's possible. That's mental maturity. That's emotional strength. And when you get your mind in order, you start to see your words shift. You no longer use your tongue to vent aimlessly or hurt carelessly. You start speaking like someone who knows the weight of their words. You stop wasting breath on drama, gossip, or empty arguments. You start talking like someone who understands that words create worlds. And if you don't like the world you're living in, you might need to change the way you've been speaking. Start speaking in alignment with where you're going, not where you've been. Start speaking with the authority of someone who knows they've been called for more.
Speak like someone who respects themselves enough not to let their tongue sabotage their future.
Speak with kindness, with truth, with restraint when necessary, and with boldness when it's time to declare your direction. Let your words be fewer but weightier. Don't talk just to fill silence. Speak to bring clarity, healing, wisdom, and vision.
Speak to shift atmospheres, not just to get attention. There's a difference between noise and impact, and the people who make the most impact aren't always the loudest. They're the most intentional. Now, all this mind and mouth work. It prepares you to handle your money with excellence too. Because if your thinking is undisciplined and your speech is careless, you better believe your finances will reflect that same chaos. Money doesn't respond to feelings, it responds to focus. It responds to strategy, to order, to respect. And until you start treating money like a tool and not a trophy, you'll stay stuck in cycles of struggle. So many people think more money is the answer, but more money without discipline is just more opportunity to lose control. It's not about how much you have, it's about how well you manage what you've got. If you can't budget $100, you won't magically become wise with $10,000. If you're emotionally spending at $500 a week, you'll be emotionally overspending at $500 a week.
The amount isn't the issue, it's the mindset. It's the habits. You've got to decide that your money will serve you, not control you. That means telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. That means building a plan, sticking to a budget, being honest about your needs versus your wants. It means not letting shame keep you from learning what you need to learn, because financial freedom isn't just for the rich, it's for the discipline. And discipline can be learned, it can be practiced, it can be built, one smart decision at a time. It also means being aware of what triggers you to spend. Do you buy to feel better? Do you shop to fill a void? Do you say yes out of guilt when people ask you for money, even when you don't have it to give? You've got to check those patterns. You've got to be willing to sit with yourself and ask, why am I doing this? What am I running from? What am I trying to prove? Because when you confront the root, you can heal the fruit. You can shift from being reactive to being responsible, from being controlled to being in control, and that shift, that's where financial power lies. That's where abundance is born, not in what you accumulate, but in how you assign your resources to build your vision, bless others, and secure your legacy. This isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. Aware, intentional. It's about checking in with yourself regularly and asking, am I living in alignment with who I say I want to be? Because it's easy to say you want peace, but if you're letting any thought into your mind, any word out of your mouth, and any impulse run your wallet, then you're not aligned. And where there's no alignment, there's always tension, always confusion, always friction. But when you get aligned, when your mind is guarded, your speech is disciplined, and your money is managed, you start to walk lighter. You start to move with clarity. You start making decisions that future you will thank you for. You start seeing the fruits of patience, the power of restraint, the blessing of structure, and don't get discouraged if progress feels slow. That's part of the process. Growth isn't always visible right away. Sometimes you're planting seeds in silence for a long time before anything breaks the surface. But that doesn't mean it's not working. It means it's rooting, and deep roots take time, but they're the reason the tree doesn't fall in the storm. They're the reason you don't crumble when life gets hard, because you're not shallow, you're not surface. You're built for longevity, so keep guarding that mind like it's sacred, because it is. Keep taming that tongue like it carries life, because it does. Keep managing that money like it's a tool for purpose, because it's supposed to be. Every area matters. Every part of you needs care, intention, and alignment. Don't leave one area thriving while another is bleeding. You're not here to live in fragments. You're here to live in wholeness. And wholeness requires discipline. Every day,
You're either building the life you want or allowing life to build you into something unrecognizable. And that's why the little things matter. The thought you entertain, the word you release, the dollar you spend, it's all connected. It's all shaping something. You can't afford to be careless with any of it. You've come too far. You've learned too much. You've been through too many battles to keep living on autopilot. You've got a destiny to walk in. You've got people assigned to your voice, to your example, to your story. They're not just watching what you do in public. They're watching how you live in private. And the greatest testimony you'll ever give is how you live your life when no one's watching. That's where your legacy is being written, not in the highlights, not in the applause, but in the daily grind, in the quiet prayers, in the uncelebrated sacrifices, in the times you wanted to quit but chose to rise. That's where real power is born, not from perfection, but from discipline, and that discipline, it won't always feel good, but it will always do good. It might feel like sacrifice in the moment, but it will feel like freedom in the long run. Because when you've learned to master yourself, your mind, your mouth, your money, you've learned to master the direction of your life. And there's no limit to where that discipline can take you. So now, as you stand at this crossroads, understand that your future isn't waiting to be found. It's waiting to be formed by your thoughts, spoken through your words, and financed by your discipline. When you guard your mind, you protect your peace. When you tame your tongue, you preserve your power. And when you manage your money, you multiply your impact. This isn't just about success. This is about stewardship. This is about becoming the kind of person who can be trusted with more influence, more responsibility, more blessing. You're not just building a life, you're building a legacy, one thought, one word, $1 at a time. So move forward with clarity, move forward with excellence, and remember, you have everything you need to live wisely, speak with power, and walk in purpose. The rest, that's just the harvest of a life lived in alignment.